As my professor Rosenfeld said in '85, too much jargon in geology. There's too much German words like quartz, monzonite, and, so I'll try to just stick with basic words: granite, marble. Okay, but we're going to talk about both the Southern Sierra and tectonics of what's causing phenomenal tectonic activity, and then we're going to talk about some of the different minerals and rock deposits in the Southern Sierra. So if you look at the map, this is just a relief map of California. The Southern Sierra is basically a huge granitic, what we call batholith. That means a complex of a lot of different granites, okay? We're talking about everywhere going up even past Tahoe, down into the Tehachapi's, okay? Of course, here's Ridgecrest right here. And so what we'll talk about now is basically the rock types and then the faulting, okay? So I'm going to flip this. This is a funky old 25-year-old map. It's kind of flimsy, but I can sort of support it on the backside of the geologic map. Oh, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what's that big blue thing down the middle of that?
San Joaquin Valley. So what they did, Ken, is by the elevation, they use different colors, right? The High Sierra is white, the brown is different elevation ranges, and then the blue is the San Joaquin and the Sacramento.
I associated that with water.
Yeah, when was geological time?
At one time it was.
Yeah.
Just like Ridgecrest.
You know what, that's fascinating, Charlie, because when the 49ers came, they talked about the entire Central Valley navigable with like a paddle wheel boat all the way to Bakersfield.
Wow.
So phenomenal floods. Sacramento was wiped out.
Yeah.
Huge floods in the 1850s.
If you remember a few years ago, Tulare got flooded and there was a lake that flooded all of the ag land in Tulare.
So this is a 2-degree map of rock types and faults of this California. Unfortunately, I had to cut off the top. We're already talking about the Southern Sierra and the Tehachapi, and of course, Owens Valley. So what you'll notice is all this red, and that's all what we call granitic rocks, okay? So the word batholith means a complex of multiple granitic plutons, okay? But what's really intriguing is notice how it starts bending, and it bends down to here in the Indian Wells Valley, and then it basically hits the Tehachapi's, okay? So what you'll notice is, yeah, we've got more or less a huge granitic igneous complex. The metamorphic rocks, which is like slates and quartzites and marbles, those are the blue rocks, which the Inyos are full of, including Mazurka Canyon. And then we've got exotic rocks, schist, metamorphic rocks, the Rand schist right here, gray. We've got the El Paso complex of rocks that are marbles, siltstones, and the main thing is the different rock types that you see in the Sierra, and then you see in the Inyos whites, and then what we're going to look at now is some of what we call tectonics or faulting. Of course, everybody knows about the San Andreas fault, this huge one here, okay? And then we're going to talk about the Garlock fault, and also the faults that are in the Kern River right here, Canyon, and the White Inyo Eastern Sierra. So let me show you. I got sort of a small fault map. Okay. Okay. So we're talking about the Sierra Nevada, the Owens Valley. There's us, the Mojave Desert, San Joaquin Valley. So what you notice is that we just talked about the San Andreas Fault, which rips all the way up from the Salton Sea, right through Cajon Pass, right through Fraser Park, and then makes this bend here. This is fascinating. This bend is an artifact of what's happening right now. So in geologic time right now, what we have is this Garlock Fault, which hasn't moved in like 400 years. The USGS is very concerned about this Garlock Fault. It's 250 kilometers, I'll use some metric, but it's got 60 kilometers of mapped and analyzed offset on it. So that 60 kilometers would be 40 miles. Yeah. So what's happening is You got 40 miles of measured offset, and as you see how it just cuts off the El Pasos, it pulls apart the Fremont Valley. That's a pull-apart basin where we all drive 395. And then it goes out through the Echo Range to the Bicycle Lake, Fort Irwin, and makes a curve and just stops. So basically, it's cut off by the San Andreas down here at Fraser Park. I didn't put the other half of it. The other half of it is it kind of goes through Lockwood Valley, up into San Luis Obispo County. So what's happening with the Sierra is it's being uplifted along these faults that are, basically like right along the range front. We call it the Eastern Sierra Fault Zone. And then it comes down and it gets truncated, like right down by 178 to Walker Pass, by the Garlock Fault. And then Red Rock Canyon, what that is whenever, because we all have to drive that way now, right? Because they closed I call it the Whoopie-Doo Garlic Road. You'll notice those Ricardo beds, they're like about 15 degrees. They're red sandstones. I always look at them when you're driving down there to go to Mojave, to Bakersfield. So they've been uplifted by active faulting along the Garlock Fault. And then we've got a very unusual area here at Catch Peak and Cross Mountain. So those are those peaks. If you were to go into Jawbone Canyon, it's a volcanic center that, according to the late Dr. Soibi from Caltech, he did 50 professional papers on the Sierra. Those are volcanic rocks that are being pushed up by a crustal weakness by this bend here in the Garlock Fault. I always look at Cache Peak and Cross Mountain. I'm too old now, I'm 68 to hike up there, but Ken and I talked about maybe there could be agates and jaspers in the Jawbone Canyon area that are being shed off those volcanic rhyolites there. And of course, got Horse Canyon on the backside, coming up Sand Canyon. So this Garlock Fault is really interesting. It's offsetting what we call exotic metamorphic areas. This is what the Rand Mountains are, this green. So those are schist rocks that we know produced 3 million ounces of gold at Ramsburg. And then we've got, now they're mining again Anatolia. Anatolia is one of the richest tungsten deposits in the world. It may have up to 1% tungsten, which is phenomenal.
Still?
It could at depth.
Yeah, okay.
They also have a lot of placer gold there in that area. I used to manufacture lapidary equipment with my family business, MK Diamond, down in Torrance. We went out of business 2 years ago. So we had a customer over here called Sidney Peakstone on the Cal City Osdick Road that goes to Cal City. They basically are making a fortune off of high-grade flagstone, which is schist. It's the finest flagstone, I think, even on the West Coast. It's better than anything coming out of Oregon. So they're on the south flank. They got about 40 employees. They cut out, push down the schist with a D10, then they saw it with wire saws and giant 72 and 96-inch saws into dimension blocks.
Wow.
They sell it to building material yards all over California and in Vegas and stuff. So they're down on the south flank. But if you look at the Rand Mountains, like from down here by the now closed road, the Garlock Road, what you'll notice is it's sort of a very gradual incline, like maybe 15, 20 degree, like a hump. So what Dr. Jacobson, he got his PhD in 1980 from UCLA, my alumni, on the Rand Mountains. He says this exotic metamorphic complex has been offset maybe about 70 kilometers from the green schist rocks that are down by Bouquet Canyon, Wrightwood, and Cajon Pass, called the Sierra Colonna. And then there's some more down here at Wrightwood. Yeah, there's a little bit up here, just a little bit up here by Sawmill Mountain. Okay, so this is what we call an exotic terrain, the Rand Mountains, with prolific mineral production. We went over the gold. We talked about the tungsten. A lot of manganese. Now for Rock County, what I heard, and I got a little bit, is rhodonite. Rhodonite is manganese silicate. I make serious. It is the finest coring and cutting, polishing rock I've ever worked. Some of the finest rhodonite was found both in the pit at Randsburg, Yellow Aster, and then a little bit was found by people mining manganese up to the 60s. You need manganese for steel. On this south flank, because anywhere where you have manganese in beds with the metamorphic schists, you can have rhodonite, but rhodonite forms probably in a deep marine offshore basin, and it basically it's from plankton that falls in the marine basin, and then gets metamorphosed into chert, and then the manganese comes in from hot springs or seawater. You heard of manganese nodules, and that's how you form this rhodonite. But for whatever reason, some of the best pink is from the Rand Mountains. Some of the best yellow, which has a garnet called spessartine rhodonite, is from the Tejon Ranch, which would be right about down in here, this little pod zone here. It's all off limits. That's right by the Northrop radar facility. Okay, and then some fantastic rhodonite was mined down here by Wrightwood too. But I like rhodonite for basically making spheres.
Didn't you say that was Dr. Austin up there?
Oh yeah, Dr. Austin basically he was mining some rhodonite. Yeah, you guys met him down here on the south side of the Rand Mountains. Yeah,
The same Austin who was in who was a geologist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he buried it though.
Yeah, he buried because there's too much high grading. Yeah, he covered it up. I never met him. This Kern River fault is very interesting. They just upgraded the dam in Isabella, the Corps of Engineers. But notice how long it is. It goes way up into the forks of the Kern, up by the waterfalls. And then now here comes this White Wolf Fault. So what happened in July 15th, 1952? The second largest earthquake in California, 7.8. It hit in the early morning hours. It ruptured the ground basically from Wheeler Ridge all the way up to Lorraine, going up from Caliente. Okay, so it's a thrust fault. That's what these little barbs are. On this side, the Tehachapi side, it's pushing up the Tehachapi Mountains. On the Garlock fault side, which goes through Tejon Ranch, it's got these arrows. It's moving laterally. But what's happening is what Dr. Solisby's lab tests and field mapping showed is the Tehachapi Mountains are the fastest rising mountains in the entire Western Hemisphere. So they're being squeezed up. That's why we had this huge magnitude 7.8 quake. And you can kind of see it on this map here. You can kind of see how it's kind of like bent right into the San Andreas. See that? So it's getting shoved up on the Edison-Arvin side, and then it's getting squeezed laterally along the Garlock on the home ranch. It's called Western Antelope Valley, up to Jawbone Canyon. Then it makes that bend. See the bend there? Along the El Pasos. Yeah, right through there.
We're gonna get you on the big screen next time.
We can do that next time, sure. Yeah. Anyways, so you get the picture. We're in a very active tectonic zone, maybe the most active in the entire Western Hemisphere. Exceeds anything as far as activity, including South America. Charlie and I work in South America. And the Owens Valley is nothing to take lightly. In 1986, there was a six magnitude quakes up by Chalfant that threw Volkswagen-sized boulders off the White Mountains, rolled down. Of course, we had the Mammoth Lake swarms of quakes in 1980, just right after Mount St. Helens. Of course, everybody knows, and Ken, you're from Lee Vining, the Inyo crater, Mono crater. This is a huge, what we call volcanic caldera complex, including Mammoth. And up into the Mono Basin.
The whole long valley.
The whole long valley is a crustal weak zone. And of course, everybody knows who was here on 4th of July and the day after. That was the most terrifying thing I've ever been through. I just cleaned up. I was working in Oatman when I lived in Southland, and it was a total mess. My house. I live in College Heights, so I cleaned up that day. It was Friday the 5th. And what happens is it hit at 8:30. My two cats ran and hit at 7:45. They must pick up low frequency waves.
There's the fourth and the fifth.
The fourth and the fifth, and that hit, and here's a little plot of it, yeah, right here. The newspaper, which came out on Friday, which is no longer around, stopped at the, I think the magnitude 5.4 on Friday at 4 a.m. But I plotted the magnitude 7.1 at 8:20 p.m. on Friday. But look how it starts. It starts on the 4th of July, the foreshocks with the 6.4. I felt it in Laughlin. Yeah, I drove home at 0:30, and I'm rolling into Ridgecrest off of 395, and here's the Kern Fire Emergency Command Convoy leaving, and I'm like, how do you guys know that's the main event?
Yeah.
They ended up going all the way to Bakersfield and coming back because of the main event hits on Friday at 8:20. And my gosh, and everything, plates, and my doors. I mean, everybody's got a story about it.
It was an Indian current, I didn't even wake up.
You didn't even feel it.
One picture fell over,
You gotta
that's
be
all.
kidding, you didn't wake up?
Yeah.
Wow.
It hard, Indian current didn't really shake. Like I said, one picture fell over and that was it in my house.
Oh, I don't know.
So here's what the
Wasn't too far away
USGS
from
says.
you, It was shaking.
We had a series of quakes in Landers and Big Bear in 1992. That was a 7.2, killed 2 people. And so that was the first quake. Then in 1999, we had the Hector mine quake. That derailed the Amtrak Southwest Cheap down by Landers, by Ledlow. So what's happening is the tectonic strain of the lockup of the San Andreas at Fraser Park, it's now breaking across through Yucca Valley, into Landers, into Johnson Valley, the Newberry, Calico Mountains, and of course we found out 7 years ago. So it's cutting across, right?
Yeah.
It's cutting across. It's even cutting across the Garlock, and you guys were talking about Haywee. The seismicity kind of ended at Haywee.
Well, yeah, what I thought was pretty interesting about the quake we had on July 4th was that what they claimed, at least what I read, was that they had a fault that hadn't been recognized before. It started at Christmas Canyon Gate around Echo Range.
Yeah.
And went straight across the Spangler Mountains, right straight towards Haywee, and up towards Little Lake, and right in that area, past Little Lake into Haywee.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of stopped.
Kind of stops against the Eastern Sierra Shear Zone. Just stops.
Yeah.
Now, the USGS and the California Department of Emergency Service was so concerned about COSO, a gas eruption.
Yeah.
We call it a phreatic.
Yeah.
They took a consultant from Stanford. She set up gas meters in the COSOs to see if she'd pick up sulfur dioxide like they get up by Mammoth. Okay. Luckily, there was no gas emissions because the COSOs are a very interesting volcanic center. Ken, you worked out there. Very interesting rhyolites, andesites, and they even go over into the Golden Trout by Tunnel Meadows. Yeah. So the plumbing goes underneath 395.
Right.
Yeah. So we got another mini caldera just north of us in the Costa Mountains. But we're not getting all the sulfur dioxide killing the trees like they get up at Mammoth.
So about that area that's at COSO, I was wondering, about a year before that, in Hawaii, they had a geothermal plant, and then that was fracking, okay, injecting water into the ground to get steam, and they had a whole lot of, and the plant was ultimately taken over by the magma that was released from, and they think it was from what was being caused by their increase in trying to get more energy, and they don't, it's speculative, but the fracking they associated the fracking with increase in earthquakes, and I was wondering if this thing points right at the COSO geothermal plant.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if there was any kind of, I've mentioned that on base, and they kind of went, oh no, don't say that.
Well, Ken, didn't what's his name, the geologist who passed away?
Austin.
He basically got the Navy to develop it, right?
Yeah.
When I was in the Fox up there on the base, we monitored earthquakes and, various different intensities. We had 8,500 one year.
Yeah, so needless to say, we're in a very active zone here because we're at the intersection of the Eastern Sierra Shear Zone, the Garlock, the now ripping across the Mojave Block, all this activity, which we found out 7 years ago, and of course the huge 7.8 White Wolf Fault, which is capable of a monster quake. My attorney grew up in Bakersfield, and he was a little kid. He said it was unbelievable shaking. It was almost 45 seconds of shaking. So there was actually some perched water busted out over by the military cemetery at 223 and 58. And the Southern Pacific tunnels, I think 4 of them were completely destroyed. They had to actually daylight them. Took them almost till October to get it open.
That was 52?
52, July 52. And so yeah, we're without any question, and of course the current fault up here. You know, it's interesting, I'm cutting a giant boulder of petrified palm right now on my drag saw at my house. And it is the toughest, hardest thing I have ever cut. And it was found by farmers, Okies down here, when you come off 58 and you're over there by the Murray Family Farms and General Beale Road, and you're headed towards Edison. It was found by the farmers growing like onions and carrots down here. They would just plow around it, the Okie farmers. Well, they found a 15-footer. Could you imagine the size of that? That was moved about 20 years ago up to the Mineral Museum in Mariposa. I haven't been there yet. Everybody should go there. That's a state mineral museum.
Yeah.
But the one I'm cutting is about 28 inches long. It's like a squash, like a football, and about 20 inches high. And I'm happy to make custom segments. It just doesn't want. I've been working on it 3 years. Right now, I'm getting custom segments made in Korea right now. But my God, it's beautiful because it's the root.
You promised me a slab, but I'm gonna
He's
die.
waiting 3 yeah.
Just 3 more here.
So one theory is it may have came from up by Horse Canyon in Sand Canyon, where you know. And another theory is it came down the Kern County. This is called the Kern Canyon Fault, which Dr. Salisbury said actually the original Kern Fault went through Kelso Valley from Weldon to Lorain.
Did you say it was Palm?
It's Palm. Yeah, it's a
El
modest.
Paso, the El Paso was kind of a lot of Palm. Palm. And I have a photograph of the Cudahy Mine caretaker that was in the 20s.
Yeah.
He was, and it's in Roberta Starry's book, I think, if these pictures come out. And he's standing next to a stump, a petrified palm stump that's taller than, it's like 7, 8 feet tall. And it's right above, it was above the ground, it was still standing upright. And the caption is that the caretaker watches over, it's a good thing he's there because he watches over the petrified palm forest that was in the El Paso.
Wow.
And I have several pieces of petrified palm from there. It's opalized, it's really, really pretty.
3 years ago, Ken and I went down by the prison at Cal City because 2 people, our club president, Steve Mobley and his son, claimed there was palm down there right next to the proprietor of the prison. We didn't find any.
What was it that Pat would talk about that was right behind the prison? Of course, there's a lot of stuff in
Oh,
there.
yeah, it's,
There's weird jaspers down there.
no.
Apache Tears. Was that it? Was it Apache Tears? Was
I didn't know.
No,
it was something else. He said, let's go down there. He would say it several times.
I can't remember names.
Yeah.
I can't remember anything.
So anyway, yeah, we got all kinds of different fossils, rocks, and if you look at some of the mineralization and the resources of the Sierras and the Mojave Desert. Okay, so we talked about the geology of the Southern Sierras, the granite batholith. We talked about the Eastern Sierra Fault and the Kern-Garlock Fault and the tectonics. Tectonics just means faulting, activity, volcanism, rapid uplift, of the Tehachapis and the El Pasos and the Rams. We talked about the seismicity. Metamorphism, we haven't talked about the schist in the Rand Mountains and all the gold and tungsten and flagstone that comes out of it. Everybody knows about Monolith, one of the most prolific limestone quarries just right over there in the western part of Tehachapi, off the 58. That was built for the aqueduct.
You see that plant?
Still operating.
Yeah.
And of course, you also got Cal Portland. Hydrologic, okay, yeah, we've got a lot of issues here with water, right, in the Indian Wells Valley. I had sort of a debate with a now retired environmental division geologist who lives in Bishop, Stephen Borg, about why is Haywee, which is a DWP, but more like Little Lake, why is it always so recharged and so high? He claims it's got to be coming in from Sierra subterranean canyons, right?
Okay.
I think maybe there may be, Dr. Austin would have been great to talk about this. Maybe there's some, what we call hydrothermal volcanic waters coming up from the COSO, adding and keeping that level so damn high. Does anybody have any opinion on that?
The water plant in Olancha, you know, there's underground spring feeding that.
Yeah, to the
Coming
Crystal
down.
Geyser?
Yeah,
Not like an underground geyser?
It could be a subterranean hydrothermal, yeah, hot springs coming out of the COSOs. But maybe Stefan's right, maybe it's water coming through those canyons, you know, east of the COSO, west of the COSO junction of the Sierra.
Are you inferring that that's also feeding into our aquifer?
It could be. This is the thing is, you know, how is their recharge into our aquifers? Is it coming through like over by the brewery? Is
Yeah.
it coming down canyons? You know, the reason the brewery's there is because there's artesian water along the eastern
Yeah.
Sierra Fault.
Yeah.
Indian Wells Spring.
Indian
Yeah.
Springs.
Yeah.
So maybe we do have more subterranean fault-controlled water still recharging our aquifer here.
Little Lake is spring fed, obviously.
It's spring fed.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, I don't know about it, obviously, but I know it drained, there was an earth, I was told at least in the '60s, it completely drained out from a quake, as a result of a quake, and then they plugged it and it filled back up, or it plugged itself naturally and filled back up. But that lake's been there for on and off a long time.
So listen, Ken and I were really intrigued by this story. Ken, you can add it, called the Lost Cement Mine. So
Oh, yeah.
one of the theories is that it's cinder conglomerate. That they
red
found.
cement.
Red cement
But
in the
I
Monterey
think
Basin.
that's cinders,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So some of the coarse gold was what raised
That was gold, that was a gold ledge at, Brayfogle?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, not very far. Who was it?
It was a treasure store.
It's up
Big Lake?
Mammoth. If
Yeah,
you
maybe,
stop,
Big Lake, yeah.
if you stop at the roadside rest there by Crestview,
Yeah.
they got the plaque out there and the
Yeah.
clampers have got it says if you ever find this, you know, make sure you call us.
Yeah.
So can you have
You
gold
climb
in
this
these
side.
volcanic cinders? I think the answer is probably, but they're not common, you know. Most
I
of them-
think it's in the cinders.
Yeah.
I think Ben Williamson, he had a quarry at June Lake Junction, and he got rich awful fast.
Yeah.
And I think he hit something there.
So if you've got blowout pipes like the COSOs, then the gases will come up and
Yeah.
they can carry gold, silver, and your
Yeah.
basic,
Yeah.
your copper, your zinc.
It's a geothermal vent, right? That's,
Plus
So-
there's, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just wondering, what's the term for that? It's a,
Hydrothermal,
There's-
epithermal, well,
there's
basically, into volcanics, yeah, we use the word,
there's a geological term I'm trying to think of. I've seen, I
Yeah,
wanted
it's
to
in the
ask you about it.
dictionary about that. too.
It's okay.
you know, everybody talks about the El Pasos, Charlie, you know about the gold there. And it's really interesting, when I went to UCLA 40 years ago, my professor, Dr. Barton, he's now the head of the University of Arizona Mineral Research Facility, he said basalts are critical for gold deposits. And why? Because they are basically quenching, like on the Gila, at 3,000 plus Fahrenheit. So what they do is basalts, like this big black mountain we've got over here, they'll basically cause waters, we're talking about waters, subterranean, creating giant circulating cells that will bring the gold, silver, copper
Yeah,
up. So you gotta have that heat, your
Right.
engine, right?
right.
Basalt will do it, because
Yeah.
basalts are tapped into the upper mantle. That's
Yeah.
what the El Paso's
So
are.
I think of the basalt just being evidence of volcanism, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the different, at Little Lakes, they have, up behind Little Lake, if you're interested in lava flows, they have, the BLM has, there's a public road up on the east side of Little Lake, and you go past the red cinder cone and you drive towards the base, and there's another road that goes, Power Line Road, and you drive along there, and then there's a plaque. And the BLM has this plaque, and has and you get out and you're looking down on Little Lake itself, and they talk
Yeah.
about the different periods of time in the basalt, different types of basalt, and how many, there's like the episodes, kind of similar to glaciation episodes, there's, you know, different basalt flows at different times. I didn't realize there was so many different,
But the El Pasos with that huge Black Mountain.
So that's a recent one, right?
Yeah, that's really recent.
Yeah.
But it's a huge engine.
Yeah.
Heat for the Gerback Camp, the gold deposits.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about the El Pasos, at least from my layman understanding, is that the source was never found. It's all placer. It's all alluvial, you know, deposit from a river where the gold came from. This river, you know, flowed on top of the mountains, and you can find river rock, and you can see these big river channels up on top, and it's been over time settled down into the canyons of today, eroded down, but those original alluvial deposits are still there. And there's gold in them, right? But the actual lode where the gold was originally, who knows? And I was asking Dean, the first question I asked him, where's gold come from in the El Pasos? You know, point on the map here, tell me. And
Yeah, won't go right out there.
yeah. Well, my question was about, with the splitting and stuff, I was wondering if the yellow aster could have been a source for it.
On the other side, yeah.
And the gold in the El Pasos is really, I'll have to bring some in. And as a matter of fact, we should stake a claim, get me going, folks. And,
I thought we did.
we never, well, I did, and then Jerry, I did it for Jerry,
Yeah,
and he was gonna do it for the Hatchet Club and for us.
Yeah.
And then he left town.
yeah,
And
he's out at,
Yeah, Mesquite or somewhere.
15 Mesquite.
Yeah, and I tried to get in touch with him, but I think with the price of gold skyrocketing, he's kind of going, I got myself a claim here.
Ken and Ed and I went in early December with Marindia looking for sunstone. Okay.
Yeah.
We went out to Coastal Junction with our vehicles and we did a lot of mud out there. And we hiked around some of the basalts on the east side from the cinder.
From the cinder
From the
cone.
cinder cone. Because Marindia found a big sunstone. Sunstone is a feldspar. And we didn't find anything, but you
Had a
can
good
get
day.
these sunstones in these volcanic complexes, yeah.
I'd like to go with you just on Mazurka Canyon Road. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but right in front, when you drive, if you go to Mazurka Canyon Road, and you're driving towards the Inyo Mountains, plain as day, right in front is this huge fold. I mean, it is the most phenomenal thing to see, a patch of land that's been turned upside down. And that's what, if I'm reading that right, I mean, it's like a cross section of a mountain,
Yeah.
and it's just, this thing is just, you know, and all the lines and everything goes like this. I wish I had a picture of it. It's just like, wow.
Any questions? I'm pretty much done.
On that,
Yeah.
garlic fault there, are you saying there's maybe the possibility of a rift forming in there because of the movement?
Yeah, I had a lady that Bob Wheeler basically took onto the Echo Range in the 90s. She was doing her PhD from Cal State San Bernardino, and I read her dissertation, and she mapped by trenching, starting from basically Jawbone Canyon, all the way into the Fremont Valley along the El Paso. She got permission to go on the Echo Range. She said the section that her dating of the wood fragments in her trenches, this is in the early mid-90s, shows that the sector of the Garlock that's way overdue for a major quake, +7, is basically from Jawbone Canyon all the way along the El Pasos, across 395, into the Echo Range. That's the one she's most concerned with, yeah. But we're seeing all this tectonic activity now, just working north towards Hayward.
Yeah.
You know, into the coastos. So we're sort of at an intersection of two major crustal flaws, the Garlock and this is called the northwest trending seismicity coming up to Hayward.
So my question is, how can they say that a fault is overdue or a fault? I guess I might be able to understand how they say, oh yeah, we don't see any movement here, the fault is like
What they'll
stable.
do is they'll trench and then they'll carbon date all the wood fragments in there, okay, in the trench. But they'll map everything, you know, all the different silt and sand lenses, okay, and then they'll put it together and they'll be able to come up with what they call a reoccurrence interval with this carbon dating. And that's how they basically they can tell when was the last movements based on their trench mapping and their carbon dating of the wood.
There's constantly little shakers
There's
going on
constantly,
anyway,
Yeah, but
It's getting ready.
I'm just thinking the depth that earthquakes originate. It's 3 miles or deeper. They're very deep, and then the actual distribution and layout. You know, we're talking about 3D cuts or discontinuities, kind of in a sense of different hardness and all that. It to me, I still don't understand how you just have all this huge mass of complexity, varying density and all this, and how you can say just the amount of complexity in it. It's like, I don't understand how you can confidently extrapolate and say, like, well, this thing is due or this thing is not due, because there's so many.
Too many variables.
Yeah, there's so many variables, there's so many minor faults, there's so many pathways and depths and directions and
You know what a swag is,
water.
right?
What?
A swag?
No.
That's a
Something
scientific wild ass guess.
Okay. Well, I'm just. It's not that I don't believe it. It's just that I'm just thinking the amount of data you would need to.
It's too complicated.
It's insanely
Even the USGS
complicated.
and the Caltech, UCLA.
Yeah.
Say it just can't be predicted.
But I mean, the Garlock Fault is huge. The San Andreas obviously is huge and has a lot of. You know, it's created the Tehachapi Mountains, and this. You know, and the Sierra Nevadas and all that. So it's like, okay, but yeah, there's just so many little minor faults. So I'm.
You're getting into complicated geophysics now. Just you can't.
Bottom
Even with
line.
our computers, we can't solve it.
Yeah.
Your computer does.
Yeah.
There's too many variables. Ed's
You can
right.
retroactively
data
predict
set.
them.
What's that?
You can retroactively predict them.
Yeah.
Now-
Earthquake.
Yeah.
It does sound.
Hindsight.
It does sound like that tension that's cutting through, like, because that's a generalized path, and it is like, we're from Landers to Luddow
Oh, yeah. They're coming
to
across the Mojave.
yeah.
Remember when they did that, they did all that drilling on the Echo Range Road
Uh-huh.
and sat out there and monitored.
Yeah, I remember that.
Did some, they did some predictions then.
I was wondering what they were up to, but the Navy had it, and they didn't talk about it, that I remember.
Yeah, we were caught by surprise 7 years ago. They just didn't appreciate what was happening through the northern range,
Right.
and
Right.
they caught us with our pants.
Yeah.
Mother Nature always gets the last say.
Right.
Bottom line, the earth is alive and evolving.
Yep, but see, it's a time factor, right? You know?
So the other thing is there a specific name for the complex that runs from the Coso Range all the way to Kennedy Meadows? What is the name of that mini
I would
caldera?
just call it the Coso Volcanic Field, because
Coso
the plumbing
Volcanic
does go
Field,
into the
okay.
Golden Trout Wilderness up at Tua and Tunnel Meadows. So it's a lot bigger than we realize, yeah. It's definitely influencing our aquifer here and what's going on at Hayway and Little Lake, and where Ken used to work up at Darwin. It's not as big as Mammoth, right, the Long Valley Ken, but it's still significant.
Oh, really?
Can't take it lightly, but you know, we're on human time, right?
Yeah.
Maybe nothing ever happens in our lifetimes, but look what happened 7 years ago. Well, it was phenomenal damage on the base.
Yeah, there's a caldera at the top of Black Mountain. I was surprised when I
Yeah.
went up there. There's a big dip. There's a place that probably filled with water that the Indians would go to, because it's a sacred site. Whatever it portrayed something to them. But there could have been water up there at one time that would fill. If anything would fill up with water.
Oh, yeah, at Thompson Lab out there, the lake came clear up to there, and
Yeah.
they found artifacts out there where
Yeah.
they were evidently fishing and stuff.
Yeah, it's really flipped out.
That's pretty much it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.